Maybe not quite yet. We'll admit people as we go in. We've got people dialing in from all over the country actually today. So I'm very well aware that I'm here in Melbourne. Hey, Mike, how you doing? We do love our daylight savings here in Melbourne. It gives us an extra hour of time just to do stuff after work. It's always lovely. So welcome everyone. We'll continue to give people just a minute or so to come on in. I hope your Monday has started off really well so far. I have no complaints. I was hanging out with a great group today in an organisation. We're actually doing some group coaching this morning, and I do particularly love group coaching because people just get to learn. So I feed them a little bit of content, and we were doing a little unit this morning on influencing stakeholders. But then people also get to participate in group coaching and really sharing their insights and learning from each other, which I think is a really, really cool way to learn. So that's how I started my Monday. Welcome. So we'll let people come on in because it is that middle of the day. I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all. And I'd like to acknowledge Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people that may be on our call today and acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. I'm on beautiful Wurundjeri country today, and I'd like to pay my respects to the people of the Kulin Nation. And again, I extend my respects to wherever you might be coming from and whatever country you're on today. As always, I do like to encourage you to connect to country. And so whether that, for me, even when it was just a little moment in the sunshine, walking to and from appointments this morning, but I was really grateful to see that sunshine. And I think it's a lovely way just to ground ourselves and connect in with the Monday and whatever you might have in store for you for the week. And I hope it's a productive and an energizing week for you. Today we are talking about not having time. And I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I don't have time. Does that resonate for people? Give me a little reaction. If you can show your beautiful faces, please do so I can talk to some beautiful faces. I don't know about you, but I often feel that I don't have time. And it's a very it's a common topic, shall I say, either in coaching practice, but also in leadership practice when I'm working with teams, because leaders often lament, I don't have time to do this, I don't have time to do that. And people feel it on a one-on-one basis too. So I thought that we would start our session. Why not? Can everyone see the screen? Just give me a little thumbs up if you can, if you're on camera. Beautiful. In the chat, could you please give yourself a rating out of 10 for how well you believe you manage your time? What's your rating out of 10? I'm going to pop my chat over here. No worries, Mike. Thank you. Kate's gone in with a strong 7. We're seeing some strong ones. Beautiful. 8, 7s, 5s. Galen, 3. That's okay. Thank you for the honesty. I think sometimes it matters on the day, doesn't it? Yep, good. So we've got a range of, and if you just come on in, you didn't hear the question, you'll see it up on screen. Just ask people to give themselves a rating out of 10 for how well you might manage your time. All right, lovely. Pop it in if you haven't. Good, good. Galen, are you happy to unmute and just let us know your score of 3? Give us a little bit more colour and context to that, please. You're right, Galen, to unmute and just give us a little bit more on your score of 3. While Galen is working out whether they want to unmute or not, I'm going to go to one of the highest scores. Shan, you've given us 8. Tell us a little bit more about your score of 8, please. Lovely to see you too, Shan, today.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
I suppose I'm lucky in that I do an early start and an early finish. So I'm at work by 7 o'clock in the morning. And it gives me a couple of hours in the morning to really get some sort of transactional emails, or if I'm working on a big piece that I need to work on, to get that done in the morning. But also then it means that I'm leaving around 3:30, so I get to go home and spend time with my family. So I'm incorporating that work-life balance into it as well. The other thing that I've tried to do recently is to um, cut down on the number of meetings that I'm having or the length of the meetings, making sure that I'm giving myself time between the meetings to get to the next meeting. And then also trying to collate my meetings onto individual days so that if I'm in the office on those days, I'm having all of those face-to-face meetings. Whereas, and then when I'm working from home, trying to have those days as project days where I'm getting a lot more of the project work done, or having online meetings if needed.
Yeah, good. I'm hearing there's quite a bit of structure in there, Sham, which I reckon is time management's friend. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing and thank you for unmuting. Galen, if you want to throw some comments into the chat, feel free. And don't worry if you don't want to. I didn't want to put you on the spot. I did want to get a sense because that's our range, kind of 3 to 8. I don't think anyone scored a 9 or scored themselves a 9. All right, beautiful. So now I would like you, please, I have another question for you. I'm always full of questions at the start. Could you please give yourself a rating out of 10 for how well you manage your energy? So we've looked at time and now we're just shifting slightly to energy. How well do you reckon you manage your energy? And again, if I could please see your scores out of 10. Yeah, easy distractions. We're going to cover that today, Galen. I reckon that's, and just like structure is the friend, if you like, of time management, distraction and procrastination is the antithesis or the enemy of it. We don't like to have enemies, but it certainly can be. Yeah, beautiful. So we're getting a bit more of a mid-range. Kate, 8. You know what I'm going to ask you, Kate, don't you? Are you happy to unmute? Kate, tell us about a score of 8 out of 10 for how well you manage energy. Tell us a little bit more. Yeah, can't hear you right now. No, I don't think we can hear you, Kate. Feel free to pop it in the chat because a score of 8 is fantastic. Kate's doing something very deliberately there around managing energy at such a high level. Lauren, maybe we'll go to you. You've given a score of 6, which is about mid-range. Are you happy to give us a little bit more information, Lauren, on your score and what brought you to the score of 6 for managing your energy? Lauren might be on mute. Kate, have we got you? We got your audio?
Can you hear me?
Yes, beautiful. Tell us about your wonderful score of 8.
I actually do naturally have a lot of energy, so quite bubbly. Always kind of out there a little bit more now. I'm on a bit of a journey at the moment, so that's kind of picked up a lot now. How well I manage my energy. I'm always doing something, so I'm fortunate to be in a position where I'm not just focused on whatever work that I've got in front of me. I've got the option of working around the office, bumping into a lot of people. There's so many opportunities within the office and also, outside of my job, like my role of what I do. So I am quite fortunate to be able to put my energy in other resources as well. So that's pretty much how I manage my energy, but I do naturally have a lot of energy. And then outside of work is obviously spent doing whatever I'm doing outside of work. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for sharing. So what I heard you say there, Kate, too, is that particularly people. So sometimes people can be great energy givers and sometimes they can be energy zappers. We're going to talk about them later today. No worries, Lauren. Thank you. I think so hopefully you get the sense of where I'm going today because we're not just going to talk about time management. That would be boring. And gosh, so many people have done it before. I've got that many time management books. You'll be pleased to know that whilst I love my time management books, they don't make it to my bookshelf behind me. Only the special books go on the bookshelf behind me. And it's the ones that I can quickly grab if I need to refer to them. The reason I don't often refer to time management books is because, I don't know if this has happened to you too, I find it doesn't work. So anytime I'm trying to put in a particular discipline or structure, whether it's a zero inbox, whether it's a particular productivity tool, I find that they don't work. Now, I can't criticize the system or the method or the tool. What I can absolutely be critical of is my lack of consistency with it. Does that resonate for people? So that's why today, even though the session is called I Don't Have Time, I didn't want to just focus on time management. We will be covering it a little bit, but we're also going to be covering a lot on energy management because I believe that if you want to show up deliberately in this world, whether it's as a deliberate leader or as a deliberate team member, We have certain things that we can manage in terms of our resources. And when I mean manage, I mean have influence over, and not the managey type or the leadership type. One of those things I believe we can absolutely influence and create more of for ourselves is energy, but I can't give you more time. I can't give you more working hours. I can't give you more hours in a day. And the way you choose to spend your day, the full 24 hours, is up to you. I'm hoping that you don't spend the majority of it working, because that's going to be hard then to conserve our energy. So for today's session, over the next, probably 35 minutes or so, and then I want to leave some time for conversation and Q&A at the end, I really want to talk to you about time and time management, but also energy management. I'm going to give you some tips and things that are my favorite go-tos and what I hear exceptional leaders. So those leaders that are very deliberate and effective, I want to share with you what they do, because they do have a little secret sauce that they use to help them manage their time and manage their energy more effectively. At the end, please save up all your Q&As and we can cover them off at the end, if not before. If you've got something pertinent to what's happening at the time and you want to ask a question, please feel free to do so. Absolutely welcome that. All right, so time and energy are our lenses today. And as I've said, unfortunately, I can't give you more time. I can certainly help you with your energy. So here are some things that I'm going to share. I don't think this will be novel to any of you, because this is pretty basic stuff. But what you might take away today is something that you think, oh, I forgot about that. Or, gee, I haven't been doing that for a while. Let me go back and revisit it. Or, gee, that is new and I'm going to try it. So who has heard of SMART? SMART goals. It's a great acronym. It's an oldie but a goodie. It resurfaces so often. And I reckon if we're going to be serious about time management, first thing is we've got to have clear purpose and we've got to have clear goals. So what is it that we want to achieve? Now, I started off today, it doesn't matter what's on this list, but I'll quickly flash it up so I'm not breaching any confidentiality. There are 6 things on that list today that I need to do. Now, I've got other time tracking tools that I use, but the 6 things, it's right in front of me. I don't have to flick screens. I know that today I was out on client site this morning, but now I'm pretty much home this afternoon. And they're the things that I need to get done before I go off to PT this afternoon. So before I get punished by my personal trainer, no, not punished, I love her, but before I get those things done, I need to cross off those things on my list. That's the hit list today. So with those goals, I don't have to make them for these, specific, measurable, attainable. I already know what's sitting behind those goals. But underneath each of those goals for today, there is a plan. And that is a much more well-documented plan and approach. So when I go to do that thing, my brain already understands what it needs to do and it can just go straight into it, provided I've set the time aside for it. So my goals are clear. You've got to prioritize your tasks. And today I want to talk to you about the Eisenhower matrix. That is a tool that you may or may not have heard of before, but we're going to spend some time on it today. Planning and scheduling. Is anyone using, do you do planning and scheduling? Can I just have a show of hands if you do that already? Yeah. Excellent. Rachel, I think, yes, it is Rachel. Sorry, I had to flick back. Rachel, tell us what you do in that planning and scheduling for you. What does it include?
So, I mean, I obviously have projects and certain things. So what I do in my calendar is I plan that over the week or the months. And so I divide it up into smaller little bits. So daily planning would be looking at my time frames and then allocating hours towards it.
Yeah, good. So when you're scheduling your day, other than do you schedule time blocks for things? So outside of meetings, you'll allocate a particular period of time to do a task? Brilliant.
So blocking time.
Yeah.
And like you, I just have a word, and then I'll maybe in the description, if it's a project, work on maybe 1 or 2 tasks on that time.
Yeah. And Rachel, what happens when you look at your diary and you go 11 o'clock, it's that task, and you go, nah, not feeling it? What do you do? Do you push on through and make yourself do it, or do you pick up and do something else?
Today, for example, I've just come back from a work trip in India, so I'm behind, and the things that was prioritised today have not happened because I've had 3 sick leave calls. So I am trying to redelegate their work to others because there's some things that need to go out by tomorrow morning. So I have flexibility within my week. So today's plan will be moved because Wednesday and Thursday I have periods of time blocked out to catch up.
Beautiful. And I reckon, Rachel, I love what you've given yourself flexibility there, and also things occur. So 3 people down in the team, or a sick child or parent or person that you've got to care for, or something just pops up. So whilst we can plan, but obviously we leave plenty of room for the fact that stuff happens, because that's life. And so Rachel's like, okay, that's going to impact Wednesday, Thursday. Rachel's aware of it. She can already start building in contingencies to make sure that those things that need to get done. And more importantly, and more likely, Rachel, that you're managing those stakeholders where there's an impact if you can't deliver something. So the planning and scheduling, I've put in there, including time blocking. I am a massive fan of time blocking, and I didn't do it up until about 12 months ago. And so I was watching a podcast, and I've forgotten the gentleman's name. He's written a book on productivity, and I'll see if I don't have the book, but I've heard his podcast on many occasions. And he was the one that introduced me to time blocking. So my calendar at any given time is color coordinated. So I know what type of appointment it is. Is it a meeting with my team? Is it a meeting with a client? Is it delivery? Is it focused work where I actually need to, my coach used to call it bum glue, where I've actually got to put some bum glue on, make sure I stay in my chair and actually sit down and do what I need to do. Is it family time? Is it running my kids around to an appointment? Whatever it may be, everything has a category. And that, for some people, it sounds like it's too much work. I promise you it's not, because I hate spending time in my inbox. I don't like my inbox. Not because I don't like the people that email me. I love the people that email me, but I just hate my inbox. I find I get lost in there and I can spend hours in it. So time blocking, once you've got your categories right in whatever mailing system you use, I use Outlook, and it's pretty straightforward. Then it at a glance, I can see my week and go, how much time am I spending with, on focused work? If I'm feeling like, I need to get a lot of things done and I don't have a lot of time, I can quickly at a glance have a look and go, well, I'm feeling I don't have enough time because I've allowed myself one block this week for focused work. So time blocking works. Now, time blocking, as Rachel has very kindly shared with us, it is you basically allocating an appropriate, and I'm emphasizing the word appropriate, period of time on a task. I am a chronic underestimator of time. So I will look at a task and go, I should be able to knock that over in an hour. And usually I could double it and even triple it. And then I'd probably get the realistic estimation of the time. And I'm a chronic optimist too, right? So I'm like, I can get all these things fitted in a day, and then I can't. So I have learned when I time block, I can look at a chunk and go, I reckon, 3 hours is realistic for that. And I allocate the 3 hours. If I then have time left over, another little tip that I've given people in the past. So this is a little planner that I use. And my planner has, on this side here, it's 10-minute tasks. So that's kind of your to-do list. On this side here, it's your bigger, chunkier tasks that take more than 10 minutes. Anything on any occasion that appears in this list, which is greater than 10 minutes, that goes into time block category. Anything that is in my short, less than 10 minutes, that's the stuff I do when I'm waiting. Oh, sorry, Rachel. Let me just put that up there. So this is a planner that I received from my coach. I think she does sell them online, but you could just do this up for yourself. So basically it's 2 columns. Column on the left-hand side is less than 10-minute tasks. Column on the right-hand side is longer than 10-minute tasks. Anything that is longer than 10 minutes gets time blocked. Anything that is shorter than 10 minutes, I find in the moments through the course of the day. So that might be making an appointment, calling a colleague, sending an email out, which I know it's going to be quick. Those kinds of things. I don't time block those things. I time block the things that are longer than 10 minutes. So that's how I use it. Time auditing, every Friday I have a meeting with myself. I take myself off to a coffee shop and I sit there and I drink my coffee and I look at my week in review. And I go, what did work this week? What didn't work this week? And part of that is my time audit. That is why I have been able to get better at allocating time for tasks. Because I know now that a piece of work, particularly when you've done something in a repeatedly, and you can tell how long it's going to take you. But that time audit allows me to just do week in review. I find that practice is very good for energy management too, because if I've had a frustrating week or a week where I don't feel I've got everything done, Rather than powering through on a Friday, I will still pause and have that meeting with myself. What worked well, what didn't? What am I going to take into next week? It's going to be different. So that's under planning and scheduling. Limiting distractions. I think Galen earlier on said, yes, procrastination. It gets in the way, right? The biggest enemy, if you like, of getting stuff done, that's Getting Things Done is a book by David Allen. He wrote that book. But the biggest distraction to that is multitasking. So who loves a bit of multitasking? Rachel saying no. Hard no from Rachel. Excellent. If everyone else is going, yeah, I do try and do this and I do try and do that, it is a problem around creating even more distraction. So when we switch focus between one task and another, it can take anywhere up to between 23 and 27 minutes to achieve the proper level of focus and really become embedded in that task that we are now doing. So when we multitask, we compound the switching effect. We make it even longer to be able to get into the thing that we're getting into. Because like when we're shutting down tabs on our computers with all the different things that are open, rather than just shutting one thing and going to another, we're shutting down 6 or 7 different things that we thought we were doing and probably not very well. So in order to achieve better time management, single task versus multitasking is a complete myth. Even if I try and listen to a podcast and think that, oh, I don't know, even cooking, I'm going to muck something up, either the dish or I'm not going to be paying attention to what I'm listening to. So singular focus. The other thing is to have scheduled breaks. So how many of you actually incorporate scheduled breaks through your day? Yeah, Rachel, beautiful. Rachel, what do your breaks look like through the course of a day, any given day?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
The only thing I schedule in is lunchtime, but I schedule in an hour because I never get an hour, and so I usually get about half an hour. And I've only started doing that because I wasn't taking breaks, and then I found that my productivity I wasn't maximizing my energies, I suppose, because I wasn't taking breaks.
So with the hour now, do you find you take it?
An hour, probably half an hour, but we have fed that back for health and well-being, because as a manager, I don't want to role model poor behaviours. So now we're actually having coffee walks and things, so people get out of their desks and walk and start talking. But I find it's a very common behaviour within the organisation I work out. So you do as others do, I think.
Yeah, and that's why, and I love that you're role modeling that for your team, because people from a cultural perspective, people will pick up the feel of what is appropriate here. So if people are taking very short breaks and heading down to the local cafe, getting lunch, coming back, sitting at their desks, others will start to do that. And if you are the leader, you amplify that, because people just they look at what you do, right? So great. I love that role modeling there. So be inspired by Rachel if you are not already. Even though we might say to our team, oh, please take your breaks, but then if they see that we're not, they're not going to, or they might, but there'll be a level of, well, how come you're telling us to do that, but you're not doing it? So it's always good to take those breaks. It actually makes you a lot more productive for the next chunk of time or the next block that you need to go into. Review and reflect what you're doing. That's, for me, that's a Friday meeting. If you've got a team and you have got a cadence in place for time management, review it and reflect with your team. You might not do it at every team meeting, but every, month or so, you might say, is this working for us? We have our long team meetings. Is that working for people? Do we need less time? Do we need more time? Do we need more time or less time for one-on-ones in particular? So just review and reflect constantly. And then I've said here, nothing further to say with this one. Learn to say no. Just no. Like, set your boundaries up. And if someone says, I used to love, and I share this a lot in the Deliberate Leader program, but when I was, leading a team and I used to get Rita, have you got 5 minutes? Have you got 5 minutes? I had to learn to say no. It's not because I didn't want to be available for my team, but those 5 minutes would turn into 50-minute conversations. You multiply those by 4 or 5 or 6 of them a day, there are the daylight hours gone, right? And then we wonder why we're having to log back on, once we've got our personal lives sorted, we wonder why we're having to log on after hours and do what we need to do. So learn to say no. And you could say that in a polite way, of course. You could say, look, I'd love to. I've got 5 minutes literally now. If it's going to be longer than a 5-minute conversation, would you mind just booking a time? And then they book a time in your calendar. This is going to be hard if you are leading people and you really value that sense of, I want to be available for my team. Saying no is going to be challenging. But what it will do is make them more resourceful, because they'll go away or they'll go and ask somebody else. And that means the learning solution for them is probably going to be more sustainable. And it means that they will have gone away. So when they come back to you with the issue that they want to talk about, they've probably done a bit more thinking, because this is not a quick 5-minute conversation. This is a longer conversation with my leader. And therefore, I'll go and do some background thinking, maybe some background work, and have a discussion. One thing that my coach said to me 8 or 9 years ago, when I was in my executive role, his name is Glenn. And Glenn said to me, Rita, when your team say, have you got 5 minutes, you've got 5 minutes, we workshopped away, because I really struggled to say no. Workshopped away, by which I would say, I actually, what's the thing you want to talk about? And they would talk about it. And then I'd say, could you go away and just put together a very short brief, so I have a full understanding of what you would like to talk about, and then we can make it a fulsome conversation. By the time the person had gone away, done the little brief, and it wasn't to add to their workload, it was actually get them to do the thinking. By the time they came to me, they were 3/4 of the way through their solution. And then all they needed was the approval, the endorsement, I want to bounce. But by that stage, the majority of the thinking had been done. So learning to say no can actually be a gift for others, because it actually does force them in some ways to really be thinking about the issue in a different way. And yes, Mike, absolutely. An agenda for the meeting. I was talking to a group about this morning when we were talking about influencing. It is about being very clear. It goes back to those clear goals, but what are we gathering to talk about? And making sure that we're sticking to our boundaries around that. Okay, here are some things around why time management fails, and you may have experienced some of these. I won't read through the list, because you can do that obviously for yourselves. But I reckon that there's a whole bunch there that we've already started talking about. But this big one here is not accounting for mental energy fluctuation. So this is part of that task switching that I was talking about earlier on, where it can take anywhere between 23, 27 minutes to switch focus between one thing and another. And that's why, to signal to your brain, okay, we finished this task, get up, go make yourself a coffee or a tea, or go for a walk around the block. Do something where you're signaling to your brain, it is time to switch task and focus here. And then when you're coming back, you're opening up whatever it is that you need, and you're getting in really your brain into that new mode. And so that really helps. And that helps with mental energy. We're physically getting up. We're signaling a very clear shift to our brain that there's something else that we need to do here. Before I flick over to the next slide, did anyone want to ask any questions, or is there anything you'd like to know more about around those top 10 reasons why time management fails?
Rita, can I ask a quick question on the worksheet you were talking about?
Yes.
How often do you fill that out? Do you do that every day?
Are you talking about my little planner?
Yeah.
Yes. Every single day. Yeah, every single day. And the things that go into the longer form, so these are the greater than 10-minute tasks, not only do they find their way into the calendar, I'll talk to you about a workflow management tool. I use Asana. So then the task also gets logged onto Asana. Now, when you've got a team, or when you're collaborating with individuals, that is super handy, because other people can see where you are at with a particular task. You can invite them as collaborators. So you can do a whole bunch of things. So Asana is my preferred tool. We are not seeing the slides. No one seeing slides? Let me stop sharing and just share again. See if that works. Asana is my favorite. Is anyone using Trello or anything else, which is a workflow management tool?
We use Teams, like to have shared documents.
Yep. And does Teams have the ability for you to collaborate on tasks, or just documents?
It's more documents, I think, than tasks.
Yeah. Anyone else using any like Trello or Slack, Asana, Monday, any of those?
When I've used it, it's always become more of a burden to keep on top of using it, especially with the rest of the team, than it has been in terms of creating efficiencies using it.
Yeah, and I reckon, Sian, if it's something in addition to what you are using, I completely agree that is what can happen. It can be burdensome because it is another tool to log into and another tool to have to manage and, check out. We've got enough of those going on. So whatever tool you use, I think make it easiest for yourself. But a collaboration tool for me, and it's slightly different to just a diary entry. If you don't need it, obviously don't use it. But a collaboration tool and a workflow management tool, particularly if you're working as a team, enables the team to see where everybody is at with each given activity or task. Where you've got a project which has significant steps involved in that project, they can all be logged on to the workflow management system. So if you're not using it, might be worthwhile checking out. If you're part of a large organization, which I know many of you are, I would go and talk to your IT people and just see whether they recommend or endorse a particular workflow management system in your organization. If not, and you're part of a smaller organization, the ones that are most commonly used are Asana. Monday.com is a relatively new one, even a good old free Trello board. So if you're not using anything, you don't want to spend a whole lot of money, a Trello board is great. And you then can collaborate with people on where your tasks are sitting. All right, so that is why time management fails. Does anyone want to add anything else in there that might not be there, which is a reason why time management fails for you?
Sorry, can you just talk about focusing on the wrong metrics? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so when you're managing a project or measuring a specific task in terms of completion or where we're at with quality, if we're focusing on the wrong things and the things that aren't going to create most impact, most value, time can get away from us. I was talking to a group recently where they established that one of the things that gets in the way for them as a team is that they end up seeking more and more and more data. So they're a very data-driven team and organization. And the more data they add in, the further away it puts them from achieving their actual goal. So, and for them, data is very important, right? So one of their metrics is, and it's actually a value for them, is around quality. And it's not exactly quality, but that's the essence of it. And so when they're focusing on that, quality is important, but it's actually taking them away from the thing that they need to be focused on.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions or comments on that one? We'll see if anything's coming up in the chat. No, we're all good. We'll keep going then. So time management can fail, and that's why I didn't want to focus too much today just on time management, because it's hard to control. Not impossible, but harder. Now, I mentioned to you before the Eisenhower matrix, otherwise known as the urgent and important matrix. Are people familiar with this one? Just give me a little show of your thumbs or hands. Yeah, people have seen this before. Are people actively using it? Yep. Mike, tell us was that sometimes? Yep. Are you happy to share with us, Mike, how you're using it and how it works for you?
I guess for me, the temptation is to jump straight into something without actually running the ruler over it first.
Yep.
So having that consideration, and you talk about splitting things up into things we can do now, like those 2-minute tasks or the time blocking tasks. Actually running the valueometer, I suppose, over that particular issue. Is it something I should be spending my time on, or have I kind of defaulted to that because I don't feel like doing this other more important task, or this is a little bit easier, or I'm going to have to deal with somebody that I really don't want to have to deal with, or whatever, So I think that's the discipline involved there is actually taking that beat to truly consider what's in front of you before you jump in and do it. That biased action can be our enemy in that. case.
That's right. I love the valueometer that you mentioned there. And that's exactly what we're doing, though. We're seeing how important is this thing that I'm potentially going to focus on, and what's the impact? What's the impact on me? What's the impact on other stakeholders? So the Eisenhower matrix has been around. Eisenhower matrix has been around for a while. There's different versions of it. These little zones are my adaptation to it. So you won't find it in the literature. They're things that I've included in, but certainly this is the general gist of it. And what we're doing when we use this matrix and when we're prioritizing and looking at how we spend our time, we're running it through two lenses. And one is what's urgent and what's important. Now, wouldn't it be great, if it's urgent and important, fantastic, then we prioritize that. And they're the things that scream the loudest at us. So a deadline, a deliverable, things that are waiting, things that others are waiting on us for, that goes into the action zone. But that's actually not, normally in any 2x2 matrix, we look at the top right-hand corner and go, great, that's where we need to be. Not this one. This one here, where we ultimately want to be, spending more and more time, is this stuff here. The things that we should be doing sooner, but the things that we often leave when we've got a large chunk of time. Now, if I was to scan my calendar between now and the end of the year and I'm looking for a day or two to do some strategic planning, unless it gets to about the 15th or 16th of December, I'm not going to find time. But I know that Q4, and some planning's been done for next year, but Q4 in a calendar year, I need to be turning my mind to those things. So rather than a whole day, if I can grab 2 hours or I can grab half a day, then I'm going to go ahead and grab it. And I'm going to dedicate time to what I would put into my growth zone. This is the area and the zone where we come up with new ideas, we're thinking creatively, we might be attending to professional development. These are the things that are going to shift the dial for us on our performance, our capability. These are the things that create bigger career moves for us and that really, really make a big impact on our team when we're doing these kinds of things. They are important. Are they urgent? No, because there's no screaming deadline unless, you might have a strategic planning cycle that you're operating in, but there's no screaming deadline that says, you got to come up with this stuff before such and such date, unless it's a retreat or an offsite that your team is having. But otherwise, it's steady as she goes in this quadrant. We kind of get to it when we get to it. And if we don't prioritize it, we time block it, the reality is we never, ever get to it. So I'd really love you to focus today on what could I put in that growth zone that's really going to shift the dial for me that I should be attending to sooner. Do this sooner. The comfort zone, these periods you got to be careful with these periods, because remember I mentioned to you before where I've got 10 minutes here or 20 minutes there and I'm in between things, then I'll do my short less than 10-minute tasks. But those less than 10-minute tasks, like I might go and, I don't know, look something up that I need to book. And then by the time I know it, it's made its way all around and I'm in the to-do list for all this other stuff. And I just start scrolling. I just start Googling. I might start filing emails. I might be doing mindless scrolling activities, Oh, isn't that interesting? Such and such is in Prague again. Like, who cares, right? This is the mindless scrolling on these little devices that we can get caught into. Not urgent, not important, but we waste a lot of time doing it, right? And we all do it. It's not to be critical. Those kinds of things reduce and emit. So there are plenty of apps where you can put blockers on your phone if you're, finding that you're scrolling too much on social media. I often will delete the apps on my phone. So I will delete social media apps because it stops me going on my phone. Even when I'm in a queue, I'll just find myself going on to LinkedIn or going on to Instagram or going on to Facebook, not so much, and definitely not Snapchat, TikTok. Leave that for my children, my older children. But whatever it is that's consuming your time that you think, oh, that's my go-to when I'm bored, could you reduce or omit it? And is there something else you could use to fill in the time? An audio book or just paying attention to the atmosphere where you are, getting a bit of sun on your face or feeling the air on your face, something like that. That's our comfort zone. Distraction zone, this is urgent. So this is, you walk in on a Monday, 3 people are sick, like Rachel shared with us. You've got, you took Friday off, you've got all these emails, you need to do a few social posts to, maybe advertise a job or something that you're doing. Often these are tasks that you could delegate. And we do them because we feel that there's a sense of urgency. They end up filling our less than 10-minute to-do tasks, but they are a distraction because they're keeping us away from what's in the growth zone and potentially keeping us away from what's in the action zone. Any questions on the Eisenhower matrix? Does it make sense? Do you reckon this is a tool that you might use? Just let me know in the chat with a yes or a no if you think you might use this one. A suggestion for you, if you're working with a team and with colleagues, you can use this on a team basis, not just an individual basis. And my suggestion for you is that you set up an electronic 2x2. Now you can do this on Miro or even the Post-it note app, where you can actually shift Post-its around these 4 quadrants. I have clients that have large walls of these butcher paper in their office, and literally everything will be on Post-it notes, and they will move it around depending on what is on. But it's a clear signal, an indication for the team around what is urgent, what is important, and it gives you the visual of what we're spending our time on. So this has applicability at a team level. If you find yourself leading a team, or even if you're not leading, you could introduce it, but also on an individual basis. Beautiful, Rachel. Rachel, is there anything else you want to add in terms of how you use this tool?
I tend to use it for the teams. So individually, I probably use a combination of a few tools, but for the team, we use the Post-it note. We have it on our SharePoint, and we all go in and move it. But if I move something, obviously it's after a conversation with the staff. Like today, for example, delegating some work, urgent work. That went on the Post-it spreadsheet thing.
Yeah, beautiful. And that's a good point. Like, we don't want to shift things around. People are like, what? Especially if we're all collaborating on it. So quick conversation is great. Yeah, Rebecca. And I think a lot of us do it informally, but to formalize it might be useful for you. Again, it is another thing to do. And with all of these practices, it's consistency and the time it takes to form a habit. But if you're introducing even just 1 or 2 things into your team, or even for yourself, I find that that's more than enough for people. In fact, 1 thing at a time is probably more than enough. And then we're building up a consistency, but also a habit around using it. So that's the Eisenhower. Now, so focused on time, I want to now take us into energy, which is this beautiful green that we see there, that green energy. This list, I'm not going to go through it because obviously you can have a read through, but what it does is it really highlights the difference between time management and energy management around the same topic. So you can see that the first one there is around our focus. And when we are, time management, it focuses us on making, let me just move my little floating thing there, making the most of finite time available, because it is finite. Whereas energy management focuses on harnessing inner vitality and bringing our best self to tasks. So that inner vitality is also, where are we feeling it? What do we need to be doing for where we're at? Not getting distracted. So I think too much of a good thing is never a good thing. So if we're always going based on energetic feel, that could lead to procrastination and distraction. So I think it's got to be a combination of knowing yourself well enough. So when is my energy lowest and highest? Do I want to do those pieces of work that require more conscious thinking, creative thinking, more focused thinking in the morning? Or am I an afternoon, evening person? And do I want to leave that work for the afternoon when I'm actually at my most creative because I've had my 2 coffees for the day by then, or whatever it is? But you can see there that, time is finite. Energy is not. It's renewable and it's a manageable resource. And depending on how we are looking after ourselves, we can create more energy. And also not just looking after ourselves, but that we're in an environment which promotes that energy for us. As you scan down that list, is there anything that catches your eye?
My biggest energy zapper is negative relationships, within the workplace. Yeah, and I just find that extremely emotionally draining and battling with that at the moment, especially when I collaborate. So within my area, I collaborate with people that I don't manage. So, but they have a direct impact on everything we do. And yeah, I just find that very, very draining.
They're the hardest resources to work with sometimes, Rachel, because we don't have that line management responsibility, and it is collaboration and partnership. I couldn't agree with you more. That has to be one of the number one energy zappers. And, we can't always necessarily choose who we work with. For that one there around creating more energy, my advice, if I may, in relation to that would be engaging in whatever practices you can, and you're probably doing this already, but to get more curious about their point of view, their approach. Because when we, I think without the curiosity, and for me, I notice this, if I'm not curious, I go into judgment, and then I get really annoyed because I'm like, oh, that's a dumb way to do that, or why would you do that? Like, I become critical. Of course, I don't say it. But I become critical and I become judgy as opposed to becoming curious. And I find that when I sit in curiosity and I intentionally go, right, I'm putting my curiosity cap on now, and I'm really going to seek to understand where you're coming from, I find that helps with the working relationship. It might not, sometimes it doesn't help immediately, but it helps my willingness to engage with that person in a way which is more collaborative. Is that unlocking anything for you, Rachel, around that? Yeah. So often it's working styles, and many of you have done the Clarity 4D with me, or it doesn't matter what tool it is, but that personality profiling tool. And often it's when we clash and there's that negativity in the relationship, we're often at opposite quadrants to where they are at, which means we don't approach situations in the same way. We need the opposite thing to what they need: more data, less data. More energy, less energy, because they might be very extroverted, we might be very introverted, and that is often a good starting position for what's causing that negativity. It's a really, really good call out though, because that is draining people can absolutely drain our battery. So just on that, because I think Rachel mentioned a zapper, here are some that are common. So these are both energy zappers and energy givers. And because I'm a big fan of managing energy rather than time, because time's finite, as we've seen all through today, what I try and do is maximize my energy creators or energy givers, and I really try and minimize the energy zappers. So even though on that point that we just talked about, we might try and positively manage negative relationships by getting curious, if people are consistently making us feel guilty or uneasy, or they're full of conflict, minimize your time with them. And even when they are a senior stakeholder, it could even be your boss, and sometimes it is. Try and minimize your time with them, and maybe try and go to a different form of communication until you feel comfortable and confident enough to be able to have a feedback discussion with them, which is, what I'm noticing and what I'm experiencing and feeling is X, Y, Z, and then seeing how they may respond to that. One of my pet things, a pet peeve, is the term crazy busy. And I'm sorry if any of you say crazy busy. I seriously do not want to offend. But too often, you'll see someone, hey, how you going? And they'll go, oh, crazy busy. And we wear it like a badge. We wear it like it's this wonderful thing. It's not. From a personal branding perspective, I believe, and this could just be world according to me, so feel free to ignore this, I reckon crazy busy makes people appear flustered, out of control, and certainly not deliberate in their approach. So just be cautious and you don't have to declare it. I'm not going to ask anybody to declare whether they say crazy busy. But I think it does our brand damage, more harm than good. And many of us wear it as a badge of honor because we think, well, the busier I am, surely I'm productive. I'm like up and about, I'm a shaker and a mover, I've got something to contribute because I'm crazy busy. No, I reckon that you're causing yourself harm to your personal brand. So when someone says, how are you? I'm not about to tell you how you should answer that. Answer it however you want. But if you are using crazy busy, some alternatives, here are some alternatives that you might want to consider, might be, I am great, thank you. There is a lot going on, which is keeping me very busy. I am enjoying it or not enjoying it. Insert whatever makes sense to you. And if you're really stuck, good or fine is great. Bit boring, but nevertheless, you know, that could be what you want to insert. And sometimes people ask you how you are and you're like, I don't even know you very well. I don't want to tell you how I am. That's up to you, of course. That's your personal prerogative. But just be mindful. When we're also saying to our brain, and when we hear ourselves say, I'm crazy busy or I'm really busy, even when you are maybe not necessarily busy, your brain continues to hear this message of I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. And basically that's I'm out of control. There is too much going on. I'm overwhelmed. So just be conscious of what you're signaling to your brain. Here are some of those energy creators. I'm not going to preach to you here on these ones. I think that these are quite self-explanatory. Activities to quieten the mind is the only one I'll double down on there. And that is if you are having a back-to-back day where your calendar is absolutely chock-a-block the whole day, you've got a big team, family responsibilities, all of it. Can you find 20-second blocks where you can do some breathing, shutting your eyes and doing some breathing just to quieten the mind? And that can help us feel that we are on top of whatever it is. It's signaling to our brain time to literally take a breath and just get on top of whatever it is that you might feel you need to get on top of. So that's energy zappers and energy creators. Now, bringing it all together and managing time and energy, particularly in your team, here are my top 10. So setting clear goals we've talked about. Leading by example, we've also talked about. So don't underestimate your power of influence through role modeling, particularly if you are a leader. Delegate effectively. CPQ QRT will be your friend. What on earth is she talking about? CPQ QRT is a delegation model. And the beauty about this, and I'll run you through it in a moment, is that it can be used both when you are delegating a task to others, but also when you are receiving a task from somebody. C is context. So what's the context of the thing that you're either explaining to me or that I'm explaining to you? P is purpose. What's the purpose? First Q is quality. How good does this need to be? Is this just a discussion paper that we're going to use internally for our team, or is this going to another team within our organization? Does it need to be of a higher quality because other people see it and therefore not just, a discussion paper? Maybe it's a, approval or a paper for noting or a paper for a recommendation. The second Q is quantity. Do we need a 7-pager? Do we need a 3-pager? How much of the thing that we're talking about do we need? The R is resource. Who do I have that can assist me with this task? I'm really at capacity this week, but if I have a resource, a colleague that can help me, then I can maybe finish it before the end of the week. And your T is time. So if I have some additional resource, then I can get it done again by the end of the week. Otherwise, it's going to be pushing into next week. Now, CPQ QRT saves time because even when you've got a very great high performer in your team and you handball and you go, I know you're a high performer, catch, off you go, I'm here if you need. If they have missed, or if you have missed sharing one of those 6 elements, it will add time because they're going to come to you. They'll send you an email. You'll have to send them an email back, or you'll have to see them. Oh, I'm not clear on that. Well, we better set up a meeting so I can explain it to you. And then frustrations start and also mismatch in expectations start. Whereas if we can nut that out, and that's a 5-minute conversation most times, then you're done. Those components that people need are there. Optimizing meetings. I think someone said before that they're trying to reduce their meetings. Reduce or really get clear on what the meeting time is for. So an hour, hour and a half, or whatever, 30 minutes, this is what we're meeting for. This is the purpose. These are the outcomes of the meeting. capture actions as you go. So people are walking away with a very clear path on what they need to do. Don't just do talk fests. They're frustrating. You're feeling then like you have to have, meeting upon meeting upon meeting to get the thing done. It's boring and people get annoyed. Minimize distractions. Try put your technology on silent, like focus time. So you actually know when I'm in that thing and I'm actually fully present. Leveraging technology, as we've talked about, so workflow management systems or even all the different functionalities on your email system. Just make sure you're leveraging those. Breaks we've talked about. Review regularly we've talked about. That's our check-in. And whether you do a meeting with yourself on a regular basis or with your team, don't take for granted how the practices that you're engaging in to manage time and energy. Really be focused on them and review them. Develop skill, particularly around energy management. Is there something else you need to be doing that you're not doing? And then focus on outcomes, which brings us back to purpose and also means that we're driving, hopefully, outcomes and productivity. Here are my top 5 tools. And these are inspired by experience. And so managing teams, but also in my own business in the last 6.5 years. And also what I hear from other leaders, right? And I'm broke, if you've been in a program with me, you will hear me say break the rules, and I've broken my own rule because I've got 6. All right, first one, time blocking, which we've spoken about today. Second one, Pomodoro method. So this is literally where you set your timer for 25 minutes. You work in a focused, a very intent, deliberate way for 25 minutes on that task. Then you take a 5-minute break. And basically you circle through 30-minute chunks. It's very, you can Google it, Pomodoro method. You can get Pomodoro playlists. You can get Pomodoro clocks. You could put a tomato on your desk. Pomodoro is the Italian word for tomato. If that helps you to get in touch with the Pomodoro method. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Eating the frog. Does anyone know what I mean by this one? Yeah, Shan, go for it.
Yeah, we say licking the frog. I use it with my kids. You've got to do the hardest thing first, or the thing you don't want to do first, so you don't procrastinate.
Yeah, licking the frog's probably better, isn't it? Not really, but it's better than eating the frog. It's doing the thing exactly right that you don't want to do. Get it done, get it out of the way. So that stuff that you think, oh gosh, that's a boring part of my job. I don't want to do it. We've all got boring parts of our job. Get it done first. Get it out of the way, and then you can move on to the good stuff. It's like broccoli, and then you can have your dessert. Same kind of mindset there. A workflow tool, right? So I've talked to you about Asana, whatever you want to use, that really helps. And then obviously the urgent and important that we've talked about, the Eisenhower. And then the 6th one, which I wanted to throw in there, get the right people on your team. If you want to better manage your time and your energy, get the right people on your team. No worries, Rachel, thank you. So make sure you've got the right people that you want to work with. My favorite books on this topic, if you want to do any more reading, are there. So Stolen Focus is excellent. Deep Work, I love those equally as much. And Flow by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He's passed away, but he is the absolute godfather of positive psychology, and Flow really helps in terms of time management and energy management. So Oprah Winfrey famously said, this quote is attributed to her, you can have it all, but just not at the same time. And I reckon that is about right. If we are very practical and pragmatic about time and energy management, it just takes the pressure off. I've got 1 minute. Does anyone have a question or anything that they would like to bring into the space? All right, please feel free to pop it in the chat if you do. Thank you for spending an hour with me today, for giving me some of your very, very precious time. There are some ways that we can work together if we haven't already. So if you've got programs and workshops that you're thinking about for 2025 in particular, please get in contact. There are our 3 signature programs are there, plus the Team Dynamics workshop, which we can come in, profile the team, and do a bunch of fun stuff with your team. I'm also taking 2025 requests for coaching and mentoring. And if you've got an event coming up and you need an MC or a keynote speaker, please get in contact. I absolutely love doing that work. As a thank you for coming along today, you may, if you like, take a little snap of that QR code. It will take you to our Deliberate Leader resource page. And that is a page that we've put together specifically for leaders to help you out. So it's got a bunch of things there. Our very own Nydia, who's on the call today, has done a bunch of work on the Deliberate Leader page. Nydia's got a background in psychology, so you will see a bunch of things there on empathy and trust and collaboration and building a great team, cohesive environment. So please feel free to check it out. There's a bunch of things that are there that you can download the first chapter of my book. That's also there for you. Our December masterclass, or our November masterclass, it's not December yet, has not yet been released. So we will absolutely share the details with you. But I want to say thank you very, very much for coming along today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Rita.
Thank
It was
you.
good session.
Thanks, Nydia. Thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful Monday and a fantastic rest of the week.
Bye, Rita. Have a nice day.
Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Rita.
It's really useful. Thank you.
Thank you.